This week you'll be reading chapter 23, Jesus' ministry begins. We're off to the races at the beginning of the New Testament. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are filled with these action-packed narratives. It's one thing after the next after the next. Jesus is performing miracles and exorcisms, healings, and he's doing all sorts of teaching. The ministry of Jesus was vastly different from anything anyone had previously witnessed. And everywhere he went, he left a trail of dropped jaws and transformed hearts in his wake. After encountering Jesus, people would really never be the same again. Yet not everyone was equally enthusiastic about this Galilean carpenter, especially the Pharisees and the religious leaders whose traditions he was upsetting. Already we see a dual reaction happening to Jesus here. Some enthusiastically accept him, while others adamantly reject him. Then the Pharisees went out and began to plot with the Herodians how they might kill Jesus. Early on in his ministry, already Jesus' trajectory is being set. He's orienting himself toward the cross, to do what the angel Gabriel had announced to Joseph so long beforehand. You are to give him the name Jesus. Why? Because he will save his people from their sins. You know, throughout all of human history, there has not been a more polarizing figure than Jesus of Nazareth. Wherever he went, he tended to elicit pretty polar reactions from people. Like, you're either Team Jesus or you're not. There's not really a neutral position, as tempting as that position might be. We sometimes like to highlight certain aspects of Jesus to the detriment of others. Maybe we're on board with his appeals to the authority of Scripture, but we're less sure about his concern for the poor and the marginalized. Maybe we appreciate his command to love thy neighbor, but we're less okay with what that love actually looks like. Dying for your enemies, people who actively dislike you. Maybe we're gung-ho about the joy of Easter, but we tend to ignore the suffering of the cross, or vice versa. Maybe we applaud the way he ratchets up the commandments of the law in the Sermon on the Mount, but then we shudder at his holy anger toward the legalists. Or maybe we're on board with him being a good moral example, but we have trouble getting on board with all this talk about sin and salvation. Maybe we're drawn to his miraculous healings, but despise his command to pick up your cross and follow me. In his book, Mere Christianity, C.S. Lewis has this really famous quote. Maybe you've heard it before, and he's talking about Jesus. He says, I am trying here to prevent anyone saying the really foolish thing that people often say about him. I'm ready to accept Jesus as a great moral teacher, but I don't accept his claim to be God. That is the one thing we must not say. A man who was merely a man and said the sort of things Jesus said would not be a great moral teacher. He would either be a lunatic, on the level with a man who says he is a poached egg, or else he would be the devil of hell. You must make your choice. Either this man was and is the Son of God, or else a madman or something worse. You can shut him up for a fool, you can spit at him and kill him as a demon, or you can fall at his feet and call him Lord and God. But let us not come with any of this patronizing nonsense about his being a great human teacher. He has not left that open to us. He did not intend to. Now, it seems obvious to me that he was neither a lunatic nor a fiend, and consequently, however strange or terrifying or unlikely it may seem, I have to accept the view that he was and is God. That's the conclusion that Lewis came to. So what about you? Who is Jesus to you? That's the question I want to encourage you to think about and to ponder and to really reflect upon as you read through chapter 23 of the story this week.